गिरिवर धारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यशोदनंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी जय जगन्नाथ। जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय राधा कृष्णा चंद्र राधा कृष्णा चंद्र राधा कृष्णा चंद्र श्री राधे। गौर निताय जय गौर निताय। पतित पावन गौर निताय। राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर राधा दामोदर श्री राधे। जय प्रभुपाद जय शीला प्रभुपाद। जय प्रभुपाद जय शीला प्रभुपाद। Hare Krishna. On this auspicious occasion of Kartik month, we are very fortunate to discuss from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll start with prayers. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतात्पदकमलं। श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत से नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रा सुभद्राभ्याम जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So Hare Krishna. I will share the screen so that we can read the verse. So I think the screen is visible. Okay. So the verse today the devotees have given is 3.29.37. रूपा भेदास्पदम दिव्यम काल इति अभिधीयते भूतानां महद आदीनां यतो भिन्ना दृशां भयम्. रूपभेदास्पदं दिव्यं काल इति अभिधीयते भूतानां महद आदीनां यतो भिन्ना दृशां भयम्. रूपभेदास्पदं दिव्यं काल इति अभिधीयते भूतानां महद आदीनां यतो भिन्ना दृशां भयम्. So word to word meaning, Rupa Bheda, of the transformation of forms. Aspadam, the cause. Divyam, divine. Kala, time. Iti, thus. Abhidhiyate, is known. Bhutanam, of living entities. Mahat Adi Nam, beginning with Lord Brahma. Yata, because of which. Bhinna Drisham, with separate vision. Bhayam, fear. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhijit Marvin, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The time factor who causes the transformation of various material manifestations is another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who does not know that time is the same Supreme Personality is afraid of the time factor. Purport. Everyone is afraid of activities of time. But a devotee who knows that the time factor is another representation or manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to fear from the influence of time. The phrase Rupa Bhedas Padam is very significant. By the influence of time, so many forms are changing. For example, when a child is born, this form is small, but in the due course of time, that form changes into a larger form. The body of a boy and then the body of a young man. Similarly, everything is changed and transformed by the time factor or by the indirect control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Usually, we do not see any difference between the body of a child and the body of a boy or a young man because we know that these changes are due to the action of the time factor. There is cause for fear for a person who does not know how time acts. So, I'm also asked to speak on verse number 38. So I'll read the verse. Yo anta pravishya bhutani bhuter ati akhilashraya sa vishno akhyo dijayagyo so kala kalayatam prabhu. Synonyms. Ya, he who, anta, within, pravishya, entering, bhutani, the living entities, bhuta, by living entities, ati, annihilates, akhila, of everyone, ashraya, the support, saha, he, Vishnu, Akhya, named, adhiyagya, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, assert that Kala, the time factor, Kalayatam of all masters, Prabhu, the master. Translation: the Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, is the time factor and the master of all masters. He enters everyone's heart, he is the support of everyone, and he causes every being to be annihilated by another. Purport: the Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is clearly described in this passage. He is the supreme enjoyer, and all others are working as his servants. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 5.14, Ekale Ishvara Krishna, the only supreme Lord is Vishnu. Ara Sabhabhritya, all others are his servants. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and other demigods are all servants. The same Vishnu enters everyone's heart as Paramatma, and he causes the annihilation of every being through another being. Okay, so I'll just stop the sharing. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So, in today's verse is very, very wonderful, and it is one of the most repeated like part of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is described as the supreme controller and the very time personified, the very time factor. Yes, because every matter, every work, every aspect of this universe is tied within the flow of time. You know? Rather, it's the time factor only which moves this universe from one form to another, from one transformation to another transformation. It is only because of the time factor. Yes. So, for example, like one of the very wonderful concepts which we often find in Srila Prabhupada's small books, medium books, big books, in many of the purports of Srila Prabhupada, many of the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, one very emphatic point which Srila Prabhupada used to make, yes, because that is very much sometimes goes against the traditional scientific conception that how this universe is running and how this universe is created, first of all, and how everything is so well designed. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that in Bhagavad Gita there are two kinds of energy: superior energy and inferior energy, the Parashakti and the Aparashakti. So Srila Prabhupada is to very emphatic that the actual power is in the superior energy. Inferior energy is powerless, and rather the inferior energy acts because of the intervention of the superior energy. And if the superior energy withholds itself, if the superior energy withdraws itself, then the inferior energy has no value. Yes, because one of the atheistic conception, and one of the so-called scientific conception is that the matter is running by itself. Like all the laws of physics, chemistry, mathematics, everything is running by itself, and there is no one above the matter who is governing the matter. Yes, but Srila Prabhupada very strongly, he counteracted this philosophy by establishing the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, that no, it's the matter is dead in itself. The matter itself doesn't have any such power. And Srila Prabhupada used to quote many very practical example to see. Like he used to say that suppose you have a room, you have a house, you just leave the house like that. Just leave the house for 1 month, for 2 months, and you come to the house. What you see? Everything has collapsed. Everything is dirty. The walls are falling down. All the paintings have worn out. Yes, it's good for nothing. If you enter a house and you see that, oh, it's wonderfully running, everything is so clean, everything is so much shining. If you go to a temple, the entire temple schedules are managed properly, and the deities are getting worshipped at right time, then what we conclude? We conclude that there's a perfect management. There is somebody who is so much involved into it. Yes, There's some living entity who is very much involved into it. Let's say our Bangalore traffic. If the traffic police becomes careless, at once we find the chaos in the whole Bangalore. We find that the vehicles they have got stuck. No vehicle is about to move. People are shouting. People are horning. Everything. So if the Bangalore traffic is running very nicely, the one conclusion can be that the traffic police is very active. Yes, and that's why it's running very nicely. So Srila Prabhupada used to say by this practical example, if this small petty things of this world require so much of involvement of a living entity, yes, so much of involvement of a higher intelligence, yes, so what to say of this giant universe, yes, it's a very fundamental philosophy which I am talking, it's a very it's the ABCD of Krishna conscious philosophy. And the same thing is talked in this verse, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is saying that it is because of me, the time factor, the Vishnu, yes, there's a person behind the time, due to which this world is moving. The matter is transforming from one form to another. For example, if we have a floor, so the floor is mixed with water and it is made into dove, and the dove are made into broken into small balls, and these balls are rolled into a perfect circular disc kind of thing, and then they are put on fire, they are roasted, and then it becomes fluffy, and then you put ghee on it and it becomes ready to eat. So much of transformation, from a powder form to a paste form, to a completely bread form, yes. So all these transformations requires a considerable amount of effort, a considerable amount of planning, attention. Everything is needed to dovetail it nicely. Similarly, any transformation of matter, is done through the superior intervention of time. Yes. So here in this world, we are small souls. We are tiny souls who are trying to govern a certain section of matter. Yes. Like each soul is Ishwar. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that we are also Ishwar in a very small sense, that we have some control over matter. Yes, we have some control of our body. We have some control of things around us, and we can do that. But for this whole universe to run properly, there's a super soul, there's a super consciousness which is involved into transforming that matter. Yes, for example, in physics we study, suppose a body is at x is equal to 0, it's a Newton's first law. So I'm very sorry if somebody of you is not from scientific background, but I think I'm talking a very basic physics, because this everybody knows. Newton's first law says that if a body is at rest, it will continue to be at rest unless and until it is intervened by a force. If you don't apply a force, a body is at rest, it will remain at rest. Suppose the body is moving with a certain speed, it will continue to move at the same speed unless and until you touch it, or you apply, and it technically called, you apply some force. Yes. So even the Newton's first law proves that the God exists. There is a time factor. Yes, because a matter continue to be there only. If you don't, so if the body is changing its position, let's say from x is equal to 0 to x is equal to 5 or 6 or 7, that means it has a speed, and speed means there is energy, and energy means there is somebody energetic. Yes, there's a person who is going to supply that energy, by which it will change its position. Similarly, the matter from one phase to another phase, as Srila Prabhupada in the purport is giving a simple example of childhood to boyhood, boyhood to youthhood, youthhood to oldhood. Yes, all this transformation is done through the presence of the superior energy, the presence of the soul, the presence of the higher energy, which Krishna is talking here. Yes. So And for example, we can also see the example for like a bulldozer is there. So we see a giant bulldozer, very giant bulldozer. So I remember when we were a small child, and we will see a bulldozer, we will see such a Herculean task it will do, and it will have a hand. That hand will go and will rip out something, and it will take it, place it somewhere. Such a Herculean task it is done. But we see there is a very small living entity. The person who is running that bulldozer is much smaller than the whole bulldozer. If you see a big bulldozer, it's huge, and a person is sitting in a small cabin within that the bulldozer, and is just operating the buttons. He's trying to run the bulldozer, giving it direction and everything, and that's why all the actions are happening in itself. Yes. So fundamentally, it's the intervention of superior energy only by which the matter moves from one phase to another. Else, if you keep the matter just like that, it just deteriorates. Let's say the milk has come, if you just keep the milk like that, what will happen to that milk? It is of no use. It will just spoil. It's not that it will become some nice thing. Rather, in order to keep it drinkable, we have to keep heating it after every interval, so that the milk remains fresh. Otherwise, what will happen to that milk? It will simply deteriorate, because milk itself doesn't have that that power. So in order to keep it fresh, a superior energy has to intervene. Like so, one of the very famous phrase which Srila Prabhupada used to quote sometime was "Karmana Deva Netrena." Karmana Deva Netrena. It means that in this world, whatever karma is happening, action, reaction, living entity, in which body the living entity will born, after this body, where the living entity will go, which mother he should go, what should be the color of his skin, which country should he be born, should he be born with good intelligence or bad intelligence. Karmana Deva Netrena. That means there's a Deva, there's a higher power, and Netrena. Netrena means it is under the supervision of something. That Deva which is working, that higher energy which is working, by force of which a living entity, he is born somewhere, he goes into some other planet, to some other country, and within this life also, we find that our life doesn't remain the same. Sometimes our life is going very smooth. Suddenly, a lot of problems start coming. Suddenly, other living entities are giving us trouble, and so many things. So even that is happening because of the reaction of our previous karma. So how those reactions are brought into our life, how the material nature is arranged to give us pain or pleasure, all that arrangement is done under the Deva Netrena. Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. That Maya Adhyakshena, it is me under whose supervision the material energy is acting. And it is so in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna very beautifully established that mechanism between soul, nature, and Krishna. Yes. So there's Krishna. So these are the three triangles which forms the basis of this material world. Krishna, he is the person to give the order. He will give the order to whom? He will give the order to the material nature. And that order is to facilitate what? It is to facilitate the desire of the living entity. The living entity is a desirer, material nature is the facilitator, and Krishna is the sanctioner. So Krishna sanctions, and on that sanction, material energy facilitates, and living entity, he desires as well as he experiences the consequence of that desire. I'm feeling pain, or I'm feeling the pleasure. Yes, but the ultimate sanction is Krishna. Similarly, in the 18th chapter, Krishna gives the 5 factors of success. There are 5 factors of success, like the endeavor, the senses, the place of work, and many things. But there, the 5th factor, which Krishna explains in the super soul, is the desire of the super soul. Yes, and that's why devotees often say, I am going to do this activity, But then in the end, we see that devotees add one word: if Krishna wishes. And even in other religion we find, like in uh, Muslim, they say, Insa Allah. In Christian they say, thy will be done, that your will be done. Yes. So we find that practically every religion, whether they accept the personal conception of God, or whatever conception of God, they have this conception that there is some higher power under whose supervision only the material nature is acting. So this time factor is like a force. It's like a force under whom we don't have any control. Yes. So when the force of time factor comes, everybody is swayed away. Yeah. So, and we find that in the pages of Bhagavatam, repeatedly, whenever a pure devotee offers any prayers to Krishna, yes. So, one of the prayers which a living entity, which any pure devotee has offered to Krishna, is one of very common prayer, is that Krishna, you are the time, you are the controller. Under your supervision only everything is happening. So, from the pages of Bhagavatam, I will just like to quote some of them. Actually, Bhagavatam contains many prayers of many of the pure devotees. So I will just pick up few of them just to conclude that how this is the very fundamental understanding of, because before we understand Krishna's sweetness, before we understand Krishna's minute details of his relationship, his rasa, we should first of all understand that Krishna's greatness. So understanding of Supreme Personality of Godhead starts with his understanding of greatness. Yes. And that's why so I'm just picking up few of them. So this is the prayer from the Vasudev and Devaki. Yes. So when Krishna was born, so this is one of the first prayer which Vasudev is going to offer to Krishna. And so I'm just reading a translation. After millions of years, at the time of cosmic manifestation, when everything manifested and unmanifested is annihilated by the force of time, the five gross elements enter into the subtle conception, and the manifested categories enter into unmanifested substance. At that time, you also remain. You are known as Ananta Sheshanath. O inaugurator of the material energy, this wonderful creation works under the control of powerful time. Yes. So you see here, Vasudeva and Devaki, they are praying that the wonderful creation works under the control of powerful time, which is divided into seconds, minutes, hours, and years. This element of time, which extends for many millions of years, is but another form of Lord Vishnu. For your pastimes, you act as the controller of time, but you are the reservoir of all good fortune. Let me offer my full surrender unto your lordship. Yes. So this is a beautiful prayer by Vasudeva and Devaki. Similarly, I am going to another prayer of Nagapatnis. So this is from 10th canto, 16th chapter, and verse number 41, where Nagapatnis, they are offering a beautiful series of prayers. And one of the prayer which they are often emphasizing and repeating again and again, I'm just reading the verse. Kalaya kala nabhaya kalavaya sakshine vishvaya tad upadarshte tad kartare vishvahetave. Obeisances unto you, who are the time itself, the shelter of time and the witness of time in all its phases. You are the universe and also its separate observer. You are its creator and also the totality of all its causes. Yes, the Supreme Personality. So just a one-line purport is there, but that one-line purport is so beautiful. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing in different incarnations, can never be limited by time, since he is time itself, the shelter of time and the witness of time in all its phases. Such a beautiful summarization of this entire philosophy, that Krishna is time. Yes, Krishna is the shelter of time. This is what Srila Prabhupada is writing. Such a beautiful uh, uh, word or phrase which Srila Prabhupada is writing. That Krishna is time itself. Krishna is the shelter of time. So that's wonderful to imagine. And then he is the witness of time also. He is the person who witnesses time also. And then Srila Prabhupada adds a beautiful phrase in the end, in all its phases. That means whatever time you see in this world, time of me, time of yours, time of all the millions and trillions of living entity, time factor in each universe, time factor in each planet, everywhere in all its phases, whether it is past, whether it is present, whether it is future till infinity, minus infinity to plus infinity, all the domain of time, Krishna is in full control of it. Krishna is the knower of it. Krishna is the shelter of that time. Yes. So time I am. Yes. So this is a very famous line which became very, very famous. So Kalosmiham. So that's why when Krishna was showing the Virat Roop, so Krishna showed, there was one Virat Vishwaroop where Krishna was showing the entire space into it. And Krishna also shows the time factor, where he shows the time. So the whole space and entire time, Krishna showed that I am that. Yes. And that's why Arjuna was able to see the past, the present, whatever transformations is happening, everything Krishna showed in himself as a movie. Arjuna was seeing as if some movie is being played. Krishna was showing how the matter is undergoing changes since time immemorial. He was able to see the destruction and then again the construction, again how the universe is changing from one form to another, again destroying, again creating. He was able to see everything. And Krishna showed him what will be the outcome of this war. Because Krishna told, I am that time. By the force of time, no living entity. Suppose a flood comes, a tsunami comes, what control we have? The tsunami simply sweeps a person, and in whichever direction it is flowing, it will just take the person in that direction. We don't have any control. So that's why when the time factor is coming, we don't have any control. Big empires get destroyed. A very powerful living entity is just put to dust. And that's why we have the example of a very famous boxer. I am just not remembering his name. So there was a very famous boxer, and he used to be very powerful, undefeatable champion. He will fight in the that boxing ring, and whenever he will defeat others, he will say that I fly like a butterfly and sting like a bee. He was very famous, and he said, I am the greatest. And when he was stuck with a cancer, a bone cancer, he was not able to lift even his plate of food. He was not able to do his daily activity. He was so powerless. And when he was asked, sir, do you think still you are the greatest? And he said, yes, I'm still the greatest fool, because I thought that I am in control. But I forgot that that power was given by the time factor for a particular time. And when the time factor was running, and that same time factor caused me to took away that power, and now I am hopeless. Yes. So that's why means so these are just a few prayers which I would like to quote some more prayers. One is like Kunti Maharani. So one of the very famous prayers which Prabhupada liked very much was Kunti Maharani prayers. And one of the shlokas in Kunti Maharani prayer I am reading, Manne Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhu Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yanmitha Kali. So first line of the shloka says, Manne Tvam Kalam Ishanam. Manne means I consider, Tvam, you, Kalam, that you are the Kal, you are the eternal time, Ishanam, the supreme controller. Yes, because Ishvara and Kala both are related. Yes, because it is through the time factor only that Krishna controls. Yes, Krishna is the supreme controller, and the medium of that control is the time factor. Yes, through a particular time, he awards a living entity pleasure or pain, and then that as that time flows, that same pleasure and pain again changes. Yes, depending on his previous karma. So it is through the time factor that Krishna is controlling everything. So I'm just reading the translation of this sloka. My dear Lord, I consider your Lordship to the eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, and all pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings and are due to social intercourse. So this is again very beautiful. That a time factor. Yes, Krishna is a time for every living entity, for every nook and corner of this universe. But that time factor is impartial. This is beautiful thing which Kunti Marani is adding in the end. She's saying, yes, you are the controller, but you are the impartial controller. That means you don't have a likes and dislikes within this world. Yes, it's not that through the time factor you favor somebody and through the time factor you disfavor somebody. No, it's not like that. Samaham sarva bhuteshu nama name dvesyo stina priya. This is a very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, that sama sarveshu bhuteshu, I am equal to everyone. Name dvesyo stina priya. There's no one to be there's no one in this world, there's nothing in this world to be hated by me, and there's nothing by no one and nothing by in this world which I become subordinates, you know, or I have to surrender to that. I have nothing like that. I am impartial time, you know, because because all the time factor is running by the desire of the living entity. You know? Living entity just desires, you know, living entities past misdeeds. That's so the time factor awards or rewards, you know, the living entity's previous, you know, karma. So these are some of the very few prayers which I am just saying. If you see search through the Bhagavatam, be it Prahlad Maharaj, be it Vritrasur, be it any, you know, Vidura, if you see their prayers, you know, one of the very common theme in all the pure devotees' prayer is to acknowledge Krishna's greatness as the supreme time factor, as the supreme controller of this entire universe. Yes. So this is one of the very common things. So now we are going to see that how does the time factor act for a devotee? So this is another thing comes, because we are trying to become a devotee, we are also the influence of time. So how does the time factor act for a devotee? Yes. So one of the examples which Srila Prabhupada gives in this regard is that of a cat. You know? So a cat is there. So it's not that Krishna makes some difference for a devotee. Okay, he's a devotee, so I should not maybe release him from the clutches of time, you know, because he's trying to become a devotee. So yes, Krishna does that, but Krishna does it in a very beautiful and systematic manner. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a cat. Suppose a cat. So cat, through his mouth only, he catches a kitten also, and he catches a mice also. So the mouse and the kitten both are caught by cat's mouth only. But for one, its consequence is very dreadful, you know? Its consequence is very painful, and very full of uncertainty. But for the kitten, the same mouth, it acts like a shelter. It acts like a reservoir of warmth, love, and care. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada used to say that yes, time factor is acting on everybody. Nobody is free from it. But yes, for those who are removed from Krishna, who have turned their face away from Krishna, that time factor just moves them into this world, from one form to another, from one planet to another, you know, from good karma, bad karma, this, that. You know, they just keep rotating in this universe, you know, trying to execute their various material desires. Whereas the same time factor for a devotee, you know, it try to liberate that devotee. It try to teach some lesson to a devotee. It try to bring a devotee to closer and closer to Krishna. So yes, as a devotee, we also have our good karma, bad karma. We also are result. Our body is also the result of our karma, and whatever happenings are going to happen in our life, you know, whatever has happened in our life, all are because the result of the time factor. Yes, but if we are surrendered to Krishna, the same time factor, it will act. The time factor will take us from one phase to another, you know, from one situation to another. but it will be done in such a manner so that our anarthas are purified, so that the time factor gradually brings us one day closer to Krishna. And thus, Sukdev Goswami uh, speaks a very beautiful verse in the second canto. Ayur harati vai pumsa udyan astam cha yan asau tasyatre yat chano nitta uttam shloka vartaya. He says that from the setting of sun, you know, each day passes and one day is released from a living entity's life. Living entity is given a limited time within this body. Yes. So for a materialist, yes, the time is just passing. He just passing his time. He's doing time pass within this body, trying to just experience various pains and pleasure, and that's all. Yes. But for Uttam Shloka Vartaya, but for those who utilize their time in hearing about Krishna, the same time is upgrading themselves. The same time has a constructive effect. Yes, that time is useful time because that time is taking him away from the clutches of time. So that time factor is gradually liberating him from all this chains of reactions and action. Yes. So thus the time has two. One is constructive effect, one is a destructive effect. For those who are removed from Krishna, that time factor similarly just make them to do time pass in this world. Just make them to move from one pleasure to another pleasure, and and just punishing them for whatever past misdeeds they have done. That's all. Yes? But for a devotee, that time factor, and so Krishna arranges various situations in a devotee life, and that's why um, a devotee must have that. So this is one of the limbs of Sharanagati, is that Krishna is my supreme well-wisher. Yes. So whatever happens in my life is because of Krishna. Yes, it may be my past karma, but that past karma is sanctioned by Krishna. Yes, that past karma is arranged in such a way, is organized and orchestrated in such a way so that my anarthas are purified and I move close to Krishna. So while we acknowledge that yes, Krishna is the time and Krishna is controlling my life, still it's not so easy, because when through the Krishna our good karma is sanctioned and through Krishna some good situation is arranged, we are very happy. But as soon as that time factor leads to so-called pain in this world, when the time factor brings so-called undesirable situation which our mind doesn't is not ready to adjust with, it brings some undesirable results. That time our faith is really shaken. That time we are unable to put our complete sarnagati to Krishna. Yes, and that's why a true devotee is one, who is able to see Krishna in all his phases. So that's why all phases of time, that this word is very important. Now all phases of time, whether it is good time or whether it is bad time, we should know that Krishna is that time. When good time is going on, that is also Krishna. When bad time is going on, that is also Krishna. So it is said like a relation between mother and child. Sometimes it is filled with lot of love. The mother is just trying to feed the child, trying to just means feed him, take care of him, and everything. But sometimes the mother slaps the child. The sometimes the mother shouts at the child. Sometimes the mother has to take some reformatory measure to correct the child's mistake. Yes. Similarly, Krishna is like that loving mother. So while we living entity who are trying to become a devotee, who are trying to follow under the guidance of a guru, who are trying to read scriptures, while we are progressing in our one step towards Krishna, the time factor still acts. Our past karma may still act, but they are so arranged, they are so orchestrated by Krishna so beautifully. So Krishna is such a wonderful Lord. He uses our own karma to bring us closer to him. So this requires maturity, and that's why one of the very famous words, which the favorite of one of the favorite words of many devotees, is that tate anukampa sumishikshmano punjan evatmatitam vipakam hitva vipurvir vidvan namaste jiveta yo muktir sadaya bhav. Is that Lord Brahma prays to Krishna that Krishna, whoever sees you, your hand in all the time, whoever acknowledges your presence in every phase of his time, is a uh, is the true person who is eligible to go back to Godhead. This is one of the prayers of Lord Brahma. Okay, so that's why, but it's not so easy, and that's why uh, this is also acknowledged in the prayers of Bhishma Pitama. So when all the Pandavas, they assembled at the deathbed of Bhishma Pitama, when Bhishma Pitama was about to leave his body, was about to go back to Godhead. At that time, even Bhishma Pitama is telling that this time factor is inevitable. That's very difficult to understand. If you try to analyze the time factor, why it happened, maybe it should have happened like that. It is so injustice that it happened like this. Maybe if it happens like this, then the results would have been much better. Your mind will start reeling, because it is so complex. It is inevitable, and it's very difficult to understand. And that's why Bhishma Pitama was telling to Arjuna that how you virtuous people who are dharma personified, Kunti Maharani, who is the very personification of purity and religion, how come they suffered so much? They never had peace in their life. Their life was always full of challenges and uncertainty. Means I was just thinking that we get, at least at a personal level, I easily get affected by very petty uncertainties of this world. We start questioning, why Krishna did this to me and all that. But think about the life of Pandavas. They had so much of challenges practically in every phase of their life. Their life was never peaceful. So how can the time factor be so cruel to them? And the only conclusion in the end, which Bhishma Pitama was able to think, that Bhishma Pitama looked at Krishna and he said, he is that time factor. So yes, whatever happened to you, actually it's by his desire. And Srila Prabhupada, one very wonderful line he writes, the all good supreme personality of Godhead. So many places in his purport, when Srila Prabhupada acknowledges Krishna, he adds one prefix, the all good personality. That means Krishna is all good. Even if he has done that, something apparently looking disturbing and uncertain, it is all good. In the end, everything is all good. And that's why we see the life of Pandavas. In the end, they were the supremely happy. Although they went all through all these things, but Krishna was always with them. And that's why Narad Muni personally told to Yudhishthira Maharaj, think about your good fortune, that Krishna living Dwarka, living the 16,000 queens of Dwarka, living Vasudeva and Devaki, he's again and coming and residing in your palace in Hastinapur. So even when the war was over, everything was set up. Yudhishthira Maharaj became king, and Krishna was leaving. That time Yudhishthira Maharaj, Arjuna, everybody saying, Krishna, please don't go. And then Krishna was forced to again stay with them for another few months. So in every phase of life, Krishna was personally participating in Pandava's life. In petty family affairs, politics, everything, Krishna was personal. I mean, Krishna is supreme personality of Godhead. And he is indulging into this petty house affairs of Pandavas. Somebody took away their kingdom, so Krishna is trying to console them and all these things. So you can imagine how Krishna comes down for his devotee. So because Pandavas Although the Pandavas were suffering, but apparently they were enjoying the uh, company of Krishna. And that's why when everything was over, one of the famous prayer that Kunti Maharani prays is, Krishna, now everything is set right and now you are going. Better keep sending misery, because see, when misery was there, you were there. Now misery is gone, you are going. That means you stay where misery is there. So better give us more misery, so that we are always helpless, you know. And because of that helpless condition, you will be forced to remain with us, because now everything is becoming good and we have to lose your company. So Kunti Maharani, this prayer justified that Kunti Maharani was actually very happy when that so-called bad time was going on. So, but devotionally, she was enjoying the Krishna's presence even in those bad times. So that's why, the uh, so a devotee need to develop this strong faith that Krishna is all good. You know, whatever comes from him is all good. Whatever comes from Satchit Ananda is Satchit Ananda. You know, whether that Satchit Ananda comes in the curtain, in the gloves of bad time or good time, but within that, is the Satchitananda. And if we forget that conception, so as we progress in spiritual life and our material conception dissolves, so that curtain of good time, bad time also dissolves. And behind that good time, behind the bad time, is Satchitananda. So both are Satchitananda. Just the outer covering in which they are covering, in which they are coming, may be apparently looking desirable, undesirable. But yes, it is very easy to speak, it's very easy to explain to others. But when it comes in our own life, and means, at least I can say for myself, we are just collapsed. We are just thinking, oh, how did it happen? Why it happened? And and all such questions start coming. So now in the so that's why uh, a devotee need to always utilize his time very nicely, read Bhagavatam, chant the holy names. By that, we will utilize the time factor very nicely. We have limited time in their body. And that's why Srila Prabhupada's one of the common theme in most of his lecture was to use the human form of life very carefully. Even in his last days, while Prabhupada was doing the translation, one of the theme which Prabhupada was speaking on in his last days was how a devotee should carefully use this precious time. Time is very precious. One can never bring back, even by paying the millions of dollars. Yes. So what's a very so when we use the time very preciously in Krishna's service, that time becomes divine. That time no longer has a deteriorating effect on us. That time no longer has a, has a uncertainty effect on us. That time no longer it becomes free from the conception of pain and pleasure, because that time simply brings us close and close to our spiritual destination. Otherwise, that time is simply like a flood to make us flow from one place to another, one situation to another situation, and one pain to another pain, one pleasure to another pleasure, one living entity to another living entity, like that. Just keep moving by that time factor. That's all. So in the end, in the last phase of my talk, I would like to just say, how does the time factor act in a complete spiritual domain? Yes. So we know that in this world, the time has a deteriorating effect. But how does it act in spiritual realm? So it is said that Srila Prabhupada used to say that in the spiritual world, there is no foundation of time. So what does that mean? Is it like that there is no past, present, future? And is it like, because we cannot imagine something not happening in time, because in the spiritual world is full of leela, where Krishna is performing beautiful pastime with his cowherd boys, gopis, mother and father. But how come time is not there? Yes, time is there, but that time doesn't have a controlling effect. That time doesn't have a deteriorating effect. That time is just to enhance the love. And that's why there is no foundation of 12 hours day, 12 hours night in the spiritual world. Yes. And that's why when Krishna came to perform Leela in this world, we find that when Krishna was performing the Rasa Leela, the Rasa dance with the gopis, And the gopis had the long yearning to participate in pastime with Krishna. Krishna expanded that night into one full day of Brahma. So that night was looking like an infinite amount of time for allow gopis to perfectly, to completely relish the love with Krishna. Yes. So in the spiritual world, the time is just to enhance the love. There is no foundation of time, that the time doesn't act to give pleasure or pain. The time doesn't act to just bring that living entity from one body to another, just like it happens in this world. The love is the only factor. So in the spiritual realm also time exists, but that time is to just ahead. For example, if Krishna want to enjoy a pastime with his cowherd boys, and Krishna wants some cool environment, immediately all the factors in the atmosphere will change to bring that perfect situation where Krishna can enjoy his Leela with cowherd boys. So when Krishna returned to the home, maybe a different situation is needed to facilitate that love with Mother Yashoda. So the time immediately changes itself. So there's no foundation of time, as it happens in this world, where the time simply put a noose around the neck of every living entity and just drag him through different situations of this world. But there, the only factor is love. That time simply, that the time acts just to increase the love of every living entity towards Krishna's and Krishna's love for all living entities. That's the effect of time in the spiritual world. So as we advance spiritually, we will find that old age doesn't affect us. We are not affected that why this happened, why that happened in this world. And that's why we are able to see practically our own Guru Maharaj, our own spiritual masters, in the current spiritual masters, even Srila Prabhupada, they are unaffected. That, oh, our body has become old, what to do now? We were so happy when we will not see such thing being spoken by our spiritual master. We will not see our spiritual master speaking, oh, that situation was good. Maybe COVID time is so bad. Maybe previous to COVID, it was more better. We will not see our spiritual master speaking all these things because they are free from the time factor. Because they are just relishing Krishna's devotional service, Krishna's pastime, which is Satchit Ananda. And in that realm, the time doesn't matter. Whether we are old body, young body, doesn't matter. Good time, bad time, no, doesn't matter. Just Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipadan Purna Amrita Swadanam. Just expanding the bliss of ocean of devotional service. That's the only word in the spiritual time. There's no conception of time. As we also have to, we are also bound by time. It's already 9 o'clock and we have to finish. So this is the foundation in material world. We have a limited time of Bhagavatam, but in the spiritual world, maybe the Bhagavatam class is happening. So there's no conception of 8 to 9, and a person just can speak and unlimited hearing, unlimited speaking, because there is no foundation. But we have to finish it here. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I will end the session.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Then with pranam.
Hare Krishna.